Folks, we have made it. We are here. We're on the other side of yet another technical quandary. This is a first for us here on the RecPoker podcast. Our guest actually stepped in at the last moment and remotely reached into our computers through the Zoom window and single-handedly saved the day. We're going to talk to James Hartigan in just a moment about his fantastical technical abilities and some poker stuff. But first, I have to let you know that you're in for a treat because it's time for another week of the RecPoker podcast. This is episode 625, the Chats edition, where we talk to exciting people from around the poker world every week. But we also have a forums episode every week just talking strategy. So make sure you subscribe and stick around for that. Now, I'm your host, Jim Reid. I'm Bluffsterini in the home game and at RecPoker Jim on the hellscape that we call Twitter. And I have the best freaking job in the world, hosting the RecPoker podcast, chatting poker with my friends every week, every Monday night at 7:30 Eastern, live on YouTube. You can join us for free every week and win a prize just for showing up. Now, we're going to talk to James in just a second. I have to first mention that we're brought to you by Running Aces. They are the official sponsor of the RecPoker podcast. And most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization. So we really depend on support from our sponsors and also from our premium members who take part in our training material and study opportunities for only $22 a month. So those are premium members, like some new signups I want to thank. Jesse Schrader, Claudia Bittner, Benjamin Folger, and Kathy McKay. So thank you to all four of you for giving us a shot, and your $22 means a lot, and it helps us out on the Wrecking Crew to keep this amazing dream alive. Now, you can always get your first month of RecPoker Premium for $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. And of course, you can always get a month, join our free community anytime without even dropping a dime. All it takes is an email address and a smile, although we do insist on both. And I just want to point out that also, even if $5 is too much, I understand at times are tough right now. If you support a local food bank for any donation of any amount, we'll credit you with a free month here at RecPoker Premium. So do that, make the world a better place, help out a local food bank in your own backyard, and get better at poker, and hang out with the Wrecking Crew and have all this fun with us. I know, it's a crazy idea not to do it. So go punch your ticket there and come join us. Now, they let me host the show on Mondays, but I'm only one man, and it takes a gang, a village, a crew to make all the magic happen around here. We call this group of wizards the Wrecking Crew. Of course we do, because we're all dorks. And if you want to learn more about me or the rest of the Wrecking Crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew, or you listen up, because you're about to meet a few of them right here on the air, starting with producing co-host Chris Jones.
I'm Chris Jones. You can find me 5B5 on Twitter or 5x5 in the PokerStars home game. And I help run our monthly strategy segment called The Deep Dive, and sometimes fail to get our technical streaming issues solved.
I'm Joe Coolis. You can find me at JoeCoolPhD, cool with a K, on Twitter, and I'll be at 11 in the home game. And I run PsyOps, which is our workshop that occurs once a month on the third Thursday of the month, looking at psychological concepts and how they impact your poker game. I do encourage premium members to look to our recent posting, which should be up in just a few days, or actually probably by the time this comes out, where we talk about cognitive biases, particularly in terms of statistical concepts and how we're really bad at making those estimations.
And I'm John Somsky, also known as Poker Geek MN everywhere, and I run our home games, although I am currently lobbying for the position of Chief Smartass Comment Maker.
There has been an opening.
And I'm Rob Washam. You find me as Radman50 just about everywhere. And on the first and third Wednesdays of every month, you can join me and a bunch of our premium members as we discuss the latest poker.
That's right. Rob runs the book study. Chris is the deep dive. Joe is the poker psyops. John is the home game club. This is just a few of the Wrecking Crew members. We get up to quite a lot over here, so I hope you come over and give us a try. We're also introducing our new technical director, James Hartigan, here on the show. James, we've talked about a few different career paths for you already, but I think this tech area is really something.
It's purely because in recent months, I started making videos for YouTube and started my own YouTube channel. So I've, in a very short period of time, been through the kind of baptism of fire that is YouTube Studio. And I know where all of the weird little settings and little things tucked away under submenus are that basically enable you to let people see your content.
Well, you're a natural. So just in case this poker thing doesn't turn out, I feel like you've got a lot of arrows left in your quiver, career-wise. This is a big.
I hope so.
This like, yeah, like I'd feel very comfortable with your future out. Like I'd buy some sunglasses if I were you.
I mean, obviously, I hope the poker thing works out. And having been doing it
that
for
would
2
be
decades,
great.
signs point to things going okay. But you're right; it's always good to have, like, a plan B in your back pocket.
I mean, it's trending well, but hope for the best.
You never know.
Worst.
You never know. And in all seriousness, you never take anything for granted in any industry.
True. In case our listeners, some of them have been living under a rock, don't know who's this James Hartigan, the rock star of the poker industry. How would you describe your own role in the poker world? You've done so many different kinds of things. You're entering this, in a way, a new chapter.
Yeah.
Like, what's your role right now?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to oversell myself as a rock star. Your words, not mine. I am that guy whose voice seems vaguely familiar because chances are at some point in the last few months you watched a poker video on YouTube that I happen to be the lead commentator on, because I've been doing this job now for, as I said, 2 decades, 20 years. I've been a poker commentator mostly for PokerStars, primarily and probably best known for the European Poker Tour, for the TV shows and live streams that have been produced from that tour since the mid-2000s. And other TV shows and content that Stars has done over the years, from Shark Cage to the Mystery Cash Challenge to the new big game on tour to the PSPC to the PCA, anything and everything with an acronym.
That's right. Acronym James, we call him behind the scenes, and he's earned it. What we're going to talk about a lot. I want to just start off with you are kind of tell me what's the new PokerStars thing? Because it feels like this is it's a different kind of a role that you're taking with them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my time with PokerStars has fallen into kind of 3 phases. When I started working with Stars, which was back in 2005, so bear in mind it's like coming up on 20 years. That was when I was self-employed. I was a freelancer. I was a radio presenter and primarily was a journalist and broadcaster in London. So I'm very much, by the way, a broadcaster who got into poker, not a poker person who became a broadcaster. And that's why I'm only qualified to do the play-by-play stuff, which basically means you just say what you see. I don't try and get into anyone's heads because I'm very honest about my own poker knowledge and poker abilities. But yeah, so I was kind of a freelance broadcaster, freelance presenter who worked with Stars for a number of years. And then the opportunity came up kind of 2013, early 2014 to join PokerStars full-time and to basically wear 2 hats, to continue fronting the live streams, the TV shows, doing all the stuff with EPT and all of the other fun stuff that Stars does, but also work behind the scenes to be part of the production team. And this appealed to me as someone who came from a news background where, and I hate this word, but I'm going to use it because it is an industry standard word, where the talent are very much involved in the day-to-day running of the production. There's a lot of TV shows, there's a lot of kind of content where there are people who what we call show and go. They show up, they do their bit to camera, or they do their bit on the microphone, and then they bugger off. Whereas I've always wanted to be very involved with everything I do, and that comes because that's what news is about. Anyone who is a news anchor, anyone who's ever fronted a news talk show on the radio, they are also a very strong member of the production team as well. And I wanted to bring that into the poker world and be involved, and did that very happily for nearly 10 years. It just got to a point, I'd say post-pandemic, with all the live stuff starting again, and with PokerStars back up and running in the US, with the EPT and the NAPT, with the big game on tour coming about, and a lot of the online stuff we were doing, and the podcast, I suddenly realized I'm doing 2 jobs. I'm not getting any younger, and I'm doing 2 jobs to a mediocre degree. And what I'd rather do is focus on doing 1 job reasonably well. And of course, if I'm going to pick a lane, it would be the lane that was still the fun one, the broadcast one. And an opportunity came up towards the end of last year that if I stood down from my staff role within PokerStars, that I could basically join the roster of ambassadors and basically represent the brand, still do everything that I do at the moment, or was doing at the time, and also occasionally have the opportunity to play some poker as well, both live and online. And it was just a dream opportunity. So it just, if you'll forgive the terrible pun, stars aligned.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Yes. Well, good answer. I really set you up for that one. I did.
Yes,
I want to remind our YouTube audience, if you have any questions for James, feel free to type them into the YouTube chat, and we'll make sure to ask them. I can't promise he's going to answer them. This guy seems like a hard nut to crack, but we will ask the questions. I promise you that.
Again, I worked in journalism for years, Jim. I can deflect questions like the best of them. So I can absolutely make sure that I answer it without answering it.
He's a true professional, and it's not even the first time I've said that over the course of this recording. I also want to remind our YouTube chatters, stick around. We're going to be giving away a prize at the end of the show to help support our fight against food insecurity, to support a local food bank. All you need to do is type the words food bank into the YouTube chat. We'll do that a little later on, though. But that's coming up, so stick around. Also, we need a few names that we're going to play Stake, Study, Stack with James with. So if you can think of some famous poker player names that you think would be a good fit for James here, type them in. And last thing I'll just mention, we made it to the point that we can like monetize YouTube now. If you want to support RecPoker with a super chat or a super comment or a super sticky, that would be super. We do share a portion of all of our donations with a local food bank as well. So we would love your support, and feel free to help us out with a super chat there. All right, coming back to grilling the professional journalist that is James Hartigan here. Joe Coolis, you actually unmuted there. Why don't you jump in if you have a question for our guest today?
Yeah, well, it goes to the play-by-play aspect of your role. Poker doesn't really... So, journalists tell stories, right? I mean, that you're supposed to report on things, and yes, sometimes it's there, but really what you're trying to do is tell a story so somebody can understand it. Poker is difficult in that way because it's kind of the same thing repeatedly over and over and over again. And if you start to know the game, you know that the two can come, and it happens fairly regularly. How do you come up with ways to kind of make that exciting? Because you're driving the story, even if Stapes and Maria are providing the comic relief as well as the analysis.
There's always a story, and I think that's true of all sports broadcasting. And again, I'm going to put a little asterisk there and a little note at the bottom that says poker is not a sport. However, the way that I think it is covered, both in terms of how it's televised and live streamed, is akin to a lot of other sports broadcasting, and that's why I think it falls comfortably within that genre. And I think all good sports broadcasting focuses on people and focuses on storytelling. And this is why I personally prefer tournaments to cash games, where you have something that has a very clear beginning, middle, and an end, and has that kind of competition element to it, which I think a lot of people who are new to the game can understand. So in terms of making content, in terms of streaming and making TV shows, I love that element. And there's always stories, because there's always, and again, the best example is probably 2003, Chris Moneymaker winning the World Series of Poker, the first ever online qualifier to take down the main event. Boom. But in every single event we cover, and it's not always easy, you're not wrong, you do have to find those stories. And sometimes those stories are stronger than otherwise. But again, you look at the recent EPT stream we did from Barcelona earlier this month. The very first event we cover is the Super High Roller. And we have a situation where Patrick Antonius, who's recently entered the Poker Hall of Fame, won the Super High Roller in Monte Carlo and is on the verge of making back-to-back final tables. And in fact, it's Kyan Mokri, the defending champion of that tournament, who wins it in back-to-back years. There is your storytelling. That is and of course, you're not ignoring the other players. There are the incredible hands. There are the moments that drive you towards that conclusion. But that is the key arc of that. Just as it was with the main event, where we had Simon Witsyak, the reigning champion, make it to the final 26, I want to say, out of a field of nearly 2,000. That's an incredible story, which then gets trumped by Rania Nasruddin, who makes back-to-back EPT final tables. So those stories are always there, and that, to me, is the best part of the job, and it's how you make poker relatable to people. It's following the personalities, following the characters, and telling those stories.
Did you also have to have a theater background or some sort of performance background beyond your journalism cred in order to really kind of bring that out, so that, because a lot of the best sports announcers really generate excitement from the means in which they project what they're saying.
Sure.
Was that a part of your training, or was just
no? I think that came from years of working in radio, and I completely agree with you. There is a huge amount of performance, and the moment that you are put in front of a microphone or a camera, you have to learn that you are performing. You have to have that kind of on button and understand that you are kind of projecting a version of yourself. I think. And here's the weird thing, even all these years on, I still have a very strong passion for the game. I still love the game, and I still see stuff happen at the poker table that I've never seen happen before. So in the moment, there isn't any faking it. The genuine excitement or the genuine shock, the genuine elation and the genuine kind of empathy with someone who's just been one-outed is real. Where there is an element of performance is when it comes to the post-produced shows. Because bear in mind that sometimes we do the job twice. We'll do the live stream, and then down the line, we'll do the TV shows, and it's completely new commentary. And yes, if it's a winning moment, for example, Ramon Callejas winning the PSPC in 2019, you call that live and then you call it on tape. And what you have to do is try and recapture what you said in the moment, cleaned up and finessed and abbreviated because, of course, it's been cut down, but try and capture how you felt in the moment and reenact that. So that is performance, but I don't have any acting background. That is just my pure natural talent.
Well, you could have fooled me, and I don't think you sound anything like John Oliver, to be honest.
I appreciate it. To be honest with you, I don't mind the comparison. I'm a huge John Oliver fan. I just can't hear it. As someone who can separate English accents and can hear the regional variations, I just don't get it. But I'll happily take that compliment, as I would happily take his money.
No, you're definitely a Hartigan, no Oliver. So,
Joe, any other follow-up there?
No, we're not. Thank you.
Chris, you unmuted. What's on your mind?
Yeah, James, I have a question from our audience, and it kind of relates to my follow-up question. But so Lorianne Persinger writes on YouTube, and kind of take us back to the beginning. How does somebody who starts in journalism get into poker commentary? Like, what was the first step that got you down the road that you're on?
I mean, obviously I was joking about natural talent. It's all blind luck. And to a certain degree, that's I think most people, if they look back at their careers and work out how they went from A to B to C to D, it's random meetings, random encounters. And in my case, I was doing a radio show on a London station called LBC, and I received it wasn't me personally, but the radio station received a random email from a PR company that was acting on behalf of the European Poker Tour. And they were asking journalists if they wanted to go to this brand new poker tour that had just launched, to have the opportunity to come and experience what a live poker tournament was like and play in the main event. And this was an expenses paid trip with buy-in to an EPT main event. And of course, I was a huge poker fan and have been since I first discovered the game back when I was in high school. And so I was like immediately like, me, I want to do this. And fortunately, this was 2005, right? So I had no problem convincing the managing editor of the radio station that this was a legitimate news story, because we were in the height of the poker boom. It was trendy. It was on TV. It was in the movies. So he was like, yeah, take a week to go and do this story. And the only kind of condition, which was completely fair, is can you please mention the sponsor of the tour, PokerStars, in your report? So I go off to Deauville in northern France, and it was a double whammy for me, right? I get to go and play in this poker tournament, and you know I'm a huge Bond nerd. The casino in Deauville was the influence. Deauville was the influence for Royale Les Eaux, the Normandy resort where Ian Fleming set the book Casino Royale. And actually, when I was in that hotel and seeing the casino, how he describes it and the walk from the hotel to the casino, it's like, it's to this day, it's the same place. So I was able to nerd out on a variety of levels. But even though I don't have anything exciting to report from the poker tournament itself, I did meet a lot of the higher-ups at Stars, and I was on their radar because it's like, oh, here's this guy who's a broadcaster, because most of the journalists who accepted that invitation were print journalists, right? And they're doing their articles for newspapers or magazines. I was actually doing a piece for the radio, and a few months later, when they were upping the amount of TV shows that they were producing and they needed commentators, and you go to a talent agency, poker commentator wasn't really a thing, and in the UK really there were very few people doing that job. Jesse May was probably the biggest name in poker commentary at that time, and he was under contract with Matchroom Sports, and he was doing all of their stuff, the Poker Million and all the shows. I mean, he was very, very busy, don't get me wrong, very, very successful, but he was not available. So it's like, hey, I'll give it a go. Did a screen test, got the job, and opportunities arose from there. The biggest one being that Colin Murray, who was the original commentator on the EPT, became very successful, very famous, and he moved on to bigger and better things. And I'm always more than happy to pick up other people's left behinds. So here I am.
And actually, that leads perfectly into my follow-up question, which is really about the team that you have that covers the EPT. I mean, for me, the EPT coverage is the the best poker coverage there is. I mean, I love a
Thank
lot of
you.
the other ones, but it's the one that I look forward to when there's an EPT being covered. I'm glued to it. I'm watching it, and I think one of the things that makes it so special for me is the team that you've assembled between, Griffin and Sam and Maria and Nick. And I'm just wondering. I mean, there's a lot of great poker players out there, a lot of people who could add commentary, but what makes a good poker player a good poker commentator? And how do
In
you
terms
find
of
that
what,
balance?
yeah, in terms of what we do, it's about understanding the balance between information and entertainment. Because again, I firmly believe that you have to entertain people above and beyond anything else. And I think that there are some poker players who do excellent technical commentary and can break down a hand in extraordinary detail, but may lose a significant percentage of the audience when their analysis is taking longer than the actual hand itself did. And we've already had 3 or 4 hands dealt at the table while they're still talking about the previous one. And again, this is not a criticism, it's an observation of what we're trying to do, which is, yes, engage people who are existing poker players, but also try and find a new audience, discoverers, people who are stumbling across this weird event that's going on in Monte Carlo on YouTube and just watch for 20 minutes and get something out of it. But in one of the single biggest thing is finding poker players who are willing to work on a live stream rather than play poker. Because the vast majority of people want to prioritize playing an EPT, and they're like, yeah, I'll come in and do some commentary if I'm available. And that's kind of the arrangement that we have with Sam, for example, as a member of PokerStars Team Pro and as someone who is always going to put that first. But, with Griffin and Maria, with a lot of the events, they choose to, work on the commentary team rather than actually play. And that's really what's important, because you can't be relying on a lineup of commentators who are like, well, if I make day 2 of the high roller, I'm not going to be available, and there's this hyper turbo starting at 5 that I might want to leap into. It's, they've got to prioritize the production. But more important than that is all of us are the faces and voices of a lot of other people's hard work. And when you talk about the EPT team, the key team is the actual production team, who do come from a sports background. And again, going back to that thing where I said that covering poker is like covering any other sport. And these are people who discovered poker because they were working in sports broadcasting and were asked to start working on the EPT. And many of them learned the game rather than being poker enthusiasts who came into poker streaming, which I think happens with a lot of other productions. These are people who are TV professionals who've worked on some very high-end TV productions, some very mainstream sports, and now work as well as or exclusively in poker. And that's why I personally believe that we have that industry-leading production, because it is a professional TV broadcast that just happens to be on the internet and then later reversioned for TV.
That's great. Joe, did you have something else? I saw you unmuting earlier.
Well, I guess kind of just follow up on that. The idea in terms of different specific roles and so on is, how do I recognize that, okay, you don't see yourself as qualified a poker player, but you're kind of immersed in it. How do you pull that back and resist the opportunity to kind of make a comment or something like that?
I mean, with English heritage, I'm always going to be hugely self-deprecating. So I'm always going to downplay my own poker knowledge and poker expertise. I, in reality, am probably a slightly above average player, but that wouldn't mean I'd be a winning player if I tried to play this game long term. I've had some success, I've had some results, but again, that's the great thing about tournaments. Variance is your friend, and if only the vast majority of players could admit that actually variance is the thing that keeps them alive in the game. But obviously, I need to know enough about the game to still do this job many years later. And when I started, it was true that all you had to do was literally say out loud, oh, the player in seat 1 folds, this player is raising by this amount. And yeah, if you understood the ranking of hands and knew some funky nicknames for some hands, like, oh, that's Big Slick, oh, he's got the fish hooks, then you sounded like you knew about poker. I think now you do have to have a better understanding. You do have to have a reasonable understanding of strategic concepts. And, this is going to make Joe's ears burn, but the concept of blockers and the concept of, board textures, and understand the right questions to ask to get the best out of the person who's working alongside you. Because you're right, there are very specific roles, and you need to understand those roles and understand that what I say leads on to what you say, and what you say leads on to what I say, and it's ebb and flow. But they do need to be distinct roles, and I'm always going to do less of the analysis, even if I do have an idea of what's going on, because I'm not going to step in your lane. You don't call the flop, and I won't say what he's thinking here, because that makes for good broadcasting. And personally, I'm not a fan, and I've watched a lot of poker content where there are people who are almost battling. I know more than you. I know more than that. It's almost like a poker off. They're trying to show who knows more. And it's like, no, can we please have the guy who's leading, or woman, and the person who is there to do the analysis, and they respect each other's roles. And it's the easiest thing for the audience to follow, and it's going to make the best content.
Do you have to, so poker obviously is becoming more and more math-based, and people spend more time studying. Do you have to spend time outside of your broadcasting duties studying in order to keep up, or is it
I've always said that I have no interest in studying poker, but I probably realize, and this probably comes from me talking more as someone who wants to play more rather than someone who commentates, is I probably could do with spending a bit of time doing some very basic kind of training and studying. And I did actually recently, because I've been playing a lot of Power Path on PokerStars, I did buy Dara Okani and Barry Carter's book about poker satellites, and actually found it a really good read, and it has absolutely helped me think of poker satellites very differently to other MTTs. So there you go. There's an example where I have actually done some studying recently. But to be honest with you, with the amount of poker I consume, just, you do a 6-day live stream from an EPT, and I'm absorbing enough from osmosis, and I'm hearing enough from the Griffins, Marias, and Sams of this world that I kind of feel that's my training. That's keeping me in the game. I'm engaging enough and learning from them, as I think the audience is learning from them. And as far as I'm concerned, if I'm getting something out of it, I think a lot of viewers are as well.
Okay, that's very helpful, because it's interesting. Everybody always talks about studying, and then there's lots of people that don't seem to know much about it.
If I was going to take the game seriously, I would absolutely. I understand that you cannot play this game for money now, at any serious level, unless you are spending time in the lab, with the range of tools, software, training videos, etc. available to you. And there are some great resources out there provided, across the board for different levels. And yes, in time, I probably will do that and probably should do that. But a lot of it is just kind of like, sometimes it's like, having just done 8 days of live broadcasting in Barcelona, I kind of want to have a couple of days where I don't think about poker. But I do believe that anyone who does take the game super seriously, who wants to make money at it rather than just what I do, which is play for fun, I think it's essential now, really.
Well, that's actually just one more follow-up, just on a similar aspect, is does doing so much commentary on it, since you have expressed enjoyment in playing poker, kill your desire to play in more opportunities, because you're just seeing it, you're seeing the same sort of things, and this, poker's a slow game. It looks fast on TV, but it's slow. Even if it isn't playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. Do you find, like, I don't really want to go? I'm a psychologist. I don't want to go around analyzing people. Is the joke, right? It's not. It's like I leave the work at work. But if you like to play poker, how do you?
I do. And obviously exhaustion is a factor. If I just work for 10 days straight, maybe the enthusiasm's not there. But generally speaking, watching and following a poker tournament and watching these people play does make me want to play. And that comes down to something I said earlier, which is I still love the game, I still have a passion for the game, and I still have that enthusiasm. So absolutely, watching tournament poker makes me want to play a poker tournament. And I'm very grateful that I'm now in a role where I can balance the two. And I do think, and I'll try and stay true to this, if that enthusiasm starts waning, if I lose that passion, if watching the game doesn't fill me with it, if I'm not feeling anything and I'm losing that spark and losing that desire to want to play, then maybe I do need to look into that role as a YouTube tech director, because I don't think you should be doing this job, and I don't think you should be an evangelist for the game, a brand ambassador for the game, a promoter of the game, if you don't love it. So yes, I still, and I think we all have the same love-hate relationship with poker, right? We all have days where we're like, why do I do this to myself? Why do I do this? But then you have other days where it's like, this is the greatest game in the world. It's pleasure and pain. So with putting that to one side, and there are days, there are times where I'm like, I bloody hate this. No, I do genuinely enjoy playing for the most part, and want to play more.
We also do have the ongoing competition for Wise Ass, that I talked about earlier. So just let us know if you want to apply.
Sure. I wouldn't want to rain on anyone else's parades or destroy anyone else's dreams by snatching that away from them, because I can Wise Ass with the best of them.
That true, no doubt. Speaking of the best of them, I know we've got some questions in the YouTube chat here, but I want to talk to you about the big game on tour. So I've been a poker fan for ever since I was a kid. I grew up playing poker. I've always looked up to the legends in the game. When the first iteration of the big game came around, I just remember it being such a great premise for a show, and
it's the format.
Great opportunity
100%.
for that person to be in that seat. And it was captivating, and I loved it. And I was so bummed when it went off the air. And now that you guys are bringing it back, it is you're doing a great job with it. I love the stories. You're picking great people for it, both the contestants and the colorful characters of regulars that sit there. I guess I'm going to open this up to other people, but you and Joe have obviously a polished rapport. You guys have spent a lot of time really getting over the adversity of having no natural chemistry between you. So first of all, that's a great hurdle that a lot of broadcasting teams aren't able to get over, but kudos to you on that. Working with Joe, it can't be easy, but you're doing a great job, and you make it look fun. It's really impressive.
And obviously it is fun. And I think, but to be honest with you, the first time we met, I knew this guy's. I said this guy's supremely talented, and it was when the NAPT was first around in 2010, 2011. I was doing the live stream from the Venetian, and Joe didn't know this at the time, but he came in to do a guest spot on the live stream, and that was actually an audition. He was being tried out as an NAPT commentator, and the very next event at Mohegan Sun was the first time we ever worked together. Just the two of us doing a live stream, and it was honestly still to this day one of the most fun I've had doing a live stream, and realized very quickly that we had this good rapport, we had this good partnership, and we should build on that, and we have. But you're right, that chemistry is very important, and the factor which you can't really make up, that is you can't change, is, do you actually like this other person? Are you actually friends? Do you actually get on? Because if you don't, you are screwed, because you can only fake it for so long. I truly believe that. How many TV shows do we see where you have two anchors sat next to each other at a desk, and then you sense this tension on air, and then all these stories start coming out behind the scenes that they're at each other's throats, and then their agents trying to get them out of their contract? You can only fake it for so long. I'm very lucky that Joe is a good friend. We get on very well, and that's why we're able to have the on-air relationship where we have, which is, sometimes I do treat him with mock contempt, because it's not real. It's an act. If I genuinely hated him, if I genuinely had nothing but contempt for him, or if he was genuinely that much of a dodo, it wouldn't work. So yeah, I'm very lucky to have that partnership, and I'm glad that we've been able to, develop it over time and bring that partnership to a variety of different content strands and a variety of different continents.
Yeah, and we're big fans of the fake contempt here as well on the RecPoker podcast. We really enjoy giving each other the gears, and there's that kind of it's a way of showing affection, really, when everyone's in on the joke, when everyone knows. That's the thing. Of course.
You're only able to do that when the danger is when you're really over polite with someone. That's when you know that there's genuine animosity there, right?
I did have problem.
Yeah, that's right. This show started in Minnesota, so they call me an honorary Minnesotan. I'm getting the hang of the Minnesota nice. I think they're all just honorary Canadians. We're getting it backwards, but I do have one technical question though. So you guys, when I'm watching the new version of the new editions of the show, the new episodes,
yes,
fantastic. What we are getting as viewers is something that's gone through post-production. Obviously,
correct,
there's been layers. So I want to know what what kind of experience is it for you between the filming at the table of the action and us getting you and Joe in the booth? I'm like, it would be amazing if you were like, oh no, Joe and I just watch live and this is what we throw down and then we click cut and that's the end of it. But I feel like you must have some prep for that. Like, take me through that.
So we did watch it live. So both of those tables were filmed at NAPT Las Vegas at Resorts World last year. And we were in the gallery for both of them. Mm-hmm. And I know there are some people who feel that all that we should show is all 150 hands. No, is the answer to that. Because as we mentioned earlier on, there are times when poker can be very boring and there are plenty of hands where nothing happens. I think the finessing of selecting hands, and that's what they did on the original big game, right? It was 150 hands and 5 shows. So you're basically seeing about 40% of the hands that were played across those 5 shows, which is a decent percentage, by the way, and compares very favorably with tournament coverage. But no, so we watched it live. We watched all 150 hands play out from both tables. So we had an idea of what had happened, had an idea of the story points. Those shows then go into post-production. It's very clear, like, where each episode, during filming, they have a broad idea of what the kind of show ender is for each episode, or where we're going to start the next one, because you want to end on a big moment. I think, the first table, we had Arden Cho getting stacked at the end of the first episode and Arden Cho getting stacked at the end of the second episode. There's your perfect kind of show ender. Start afresh, take a short break, move on. So you know roughly what's happening there. The shows will then be put into post-production. Our next contact with it really is when the shows are ready to have commentary put on, and what we will have is a running order, which is basically a breakdown of what's in the show, and the most important thing to us, which is what we call the SOT logs, the sound on tape, because table chat is so important in poker. In tournament poker, especially on the European Poker Tour, where you've got people from a variety of different countries speaking different languages, it's rare. But on the big game, it's a big part of the show, and that's sacrosanct. What the players are saying to each other is sacrosanct. So what we can't do is tread on that. We can't crash that. So you need to know when our players speaking and what are they saying, so that you can react to that as well. And then we weave the commentary in between that. So I'll watch through the show and I'll make a few notes, but to be honest, and Joe might kind of come up with a few zingers that he might want to say, but then you try and be in the moment. When we actually come to record the commentary, you try for as much as possible to do it as live, and as if you were calling the action on a live stream, even though, yes, you've seen it before, and yes, you know what happens. Comes back to what I was saying about performance. And yeah, there'll be a few moments where you get tongue-tied, or you do accidentally start talking over Phil Hellmuth, and then you have to stop and start again. But generally speaking, that's how it works. And then we'll play it back and see if it works, and whether we have to do pickups, retakes, what have you. But plausibly live is what we try and go for. Yes, we're commentating in a studio over and edited down highlights, but what we're trying to make you feel is that we were there in the moment, and this was, and it is for 90%. It's our first reaction. It's our first take. It's what we did, seeing this poker being played out for the first time.
That's awesome. I know Chris Jones is going to come in with some questions from the YouTube chat, but there's another one here from Lorianne Persinger. It's very timely here. Speaking of the big game on tour, will the audition process being held during November's NAPT be the same format as last year? And is it true? So anyone can just show up and try and be on the show? So
this year, there are the gold passes being awarded, which give you free entry to the NAPT main event and give you your travel and accommodation at the event. Anyone who wins a gold pass to come to the NAPT will automatically be fast-tracked to the casting stage, or at least will have the option, right? Because there'll be some people who win those passes who might not want to play on TV, who might not want to take part in the big game on tour, and I respect that. But they will have the invitation that, do you want to be fast-tracked? For everyone else, yes, there will be qualifying tournaments at Resorts World. I don't think the format will be the same. I can't speak to that at this moment right here, right now. We're probably about 48 to 72 hours away from getting that locked down and confirmed. But I think there will be a number of qualifying tournaments, a number of chances for people to get through to the casting process, which will run both in the run-up to and during the NAPT. I think that's all I can probably say at this stage because the details aren't locked. Hopefully, very, very soon, if not by the end of this week, then early next week, we can confirm when those tournaments are taking place, what days and what times, and where they will be held. They will be at resorts, 100% sure about that. The bit that will be the same as last year is that there will be an audition process. There will be a judging panel. It will be myself, Joe Stapleton, and Nadia Magnus, who was a loose cannon on the original big game and then became coach and mentor to the loose cannons last time around. The three of us will be interviewing candidates. We will be putting them through their paces. Might be some new games, some new challenges we throw in the direction, but it still will be understanding we're trying to make a TV show here, so we are going to be selecting a candidate from the people who've qualified either through those tournaments or won a gold pass to come to the NAPT.
That's awesome. It's such a cool opportunity. And where can people win a gold pass? Is that exclusively through PokerStars online offerings?
There have been some awarded at live events. PokerStars has partnered with a number of live events, including the Run Good Poker Tour, for example. I think the player of each series, so each stop of the Run Good, if you top the leaderboard at the end of that event, you get a gold pass. But obviously, yes, the vast majority are being given away on PokerStars, obviously in the states where PokerStars operates, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and internationally as well. We could see some people coming from Europe or from South America to play in the NAPT with a gold pass, and they will have that invitation, and that might make it interesting because it's very rare that you get loose cannon candidates who are not from North America. So again, understanding that these are international TV shows, we're trying to bring in an international audience, will be interesting to see who we get as candidates. The one thing I can say with 100% certainty, by the way, about the qualifying tournaments, even if we can't confirm the format at this stage, and we haven't got that nailed down, they will once again be free rolls. This will be a free to enter competition. For the people who won passes, it's an added extra to them. To the people who qualify, they will not be charged to enter these tournaments. You know, if we're going to ask people to audition, etc., there's no buy-in involved. You know, this is going to be a free opportunity for people to be staked to play in this game and appear on TV.
That's wonderful. I love to hear it. Joe, did you have something quick? Or are you just unmuting so we can hear you laugh? Fantastic.
Yeah,
perfect.
Thank
you.
Background noise.
Chris Jones, we've got some great comments from YouTube here, and then we'll take a couple more questions from the panel and set James free. He's been very kind to meet us at quite late at night in his time, if I know where you are.
Spoiler alert, I'm actually in Los Angeles at the moment.
Okay, I was going to say, that's natural sun I see.
It's absolutely. This is I didn't have to do any lighting whatsoever. There's a window and the sun is shining. So yes.
Thank us for staying up so late on the East Coast. So.
That's true, absolutely. Yeah. I get to do this early afternoon. I'm just going to chill out with a beer after this. I'm like,
That's so good. All right, Chris, take it away.
Yeah, the chat's really kind of love fest here. There's a lot of great comments about the team is so great. Griffin is so good at breaking down hands. He's such a goofball, and I love him. Lots of great comments about the show, and but there is one kind of theme that came up in a couple of questions it's talking about sort of old school versus new school. A couple of related questions. One from Joe says, can you please ask James about the old school star ranking of hands? So funny back in the day. And then Mike Day asks, can you get into why you think back in the day poker had a tighter range of hands compared to now? So I'm wondering, maybe just to kind of summarize those together, if you can talk about how both PokerStars and the game have changed over time and how you've sort of observed those changes.
So the star ranking relates to, on the original EPT TV shows back in like 2004, 2005, they would always do the ranking of hands at the start of every episode, right? Because this was an audience of people who didn't necessarily know. And for reasons I don't quite understand, they rated them by star rating. So you had like the 1-star hand was high card, 2-star hand is a pair, and all the way up to like your 10-star hand, which is your roll flush. But in the same way that we've come a long way in the audience's understanding of poker, where we shouldn't really need to put the ranking of hands in a TV show anymore, that information's out there if they need to find it. I think players' understanding of the game, and the game is played very differently now and it's still evolving, right? So absolutely, those ranges that people had, and I remember when I went to play that EPT in Deauville in 2005, the book I read, which I was strongly recommended, was TJ Cloutier's book, on tournament poker. It's the book that Jim McManus read before he played the World Series main in 2000 and made the final table. And I'm not sure it was a help or a hindrance, but it was very much like, in first position, under the gun, ace queen, definitely a fold. Ace queen suited in early position, maybe a limp, definitely not strong enough to raise with. It was stuff like that which is so antiquated, but that's purely because our and I mean the poker community, and I mean poker players, understanding and theoretical concepts is just changed, advanced completely, and it will continue to advance. And it's weird. Some old school concepts have come back into modern thinking. Some have never come back for obvious reasons because they're terrible. I mean, look at bet sizing, how that's changed over the years. 3x, no, that's too big. Min raise, no, min raise is too small. 2.13x is the ideal optimal raise size. But now the big blind ante has completely changed. Again, button versus big blind, small blind versus big blind. Just all the time, people are coming up with new concepts, new ideas. It's evolving, and I love that about the game.
Yeah, and actually a follow-up to that, Phil and Joe just typed into the chat about absolutely loved the classic EPT rewatch series James and Joe did during COVID.
Yeah.
I missed that, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, and is that still accessible?
It's basically, we were due to... Where were we due to go to in 2020? Well, we had like the back-to-back. We had EPT Sochi followed by EPT Monte Carlo. We went to two events back-to-back, and of course COVID hit. And at that point, all of us were probably a little too optimistic and incredibly naive, thinking after the summer it'll be fine, but we're going to lose a couple of events and things are going to be a bit weird for 6 weeks. Fast forward 2 years, we've finally got a live event back again. So we were kind of felt that everyone's stuck at home, we're not doing anything. We were meant to do these live streams, and we thought what would be fun is let's take the old EPT TV shows, because in the early seasons of the tour there were no live streams, it was just the highlights. And in the very first season, all they did was final tables. And let's strip off the original commentary, which was Colin Murray and John Duthie, and let's look at it through with 2020 vision, but with that with a lens of the year 2020. Let's look at 2004 era poker, and it was hilarious to go back and see poker played very differently and have guest commentary from people like Lex, who was a reg on the EPT back then, and Spraggy, who frequently said, please can someone build me a time machine and take me back to 2005. The €10,000 buy-in EPT Grand Final Monte Carlo, and the standard was terrible, was awful. So yeah, it was a really fun series, and we did that every day of the week for like 4 or 5 weeks straight, and it was a lot of fun to do and kept us occupied at a time when we all needed something to keep us occupied.
James, there's a local hobo or vagrant, I don't know how you would refer to him, named Phil Razor, who likes to lurk in the YouTube chat, and he just wants us all, he wants you to know.
As I call him, Jim, he's Phil the Razor.
Nice. Okay, so he wasn't just making up tall talk. You are close personal friends. He is your financial advisor.
He's a Reagan YouTube chat. There you go. That's it. But which to be honest with you, is very, very, very close to being a personal friend. Yes.
Well, that's the path that you've chosen, James. Phil's a great guy and a longtime fan of the RecPoker group. And actually, I do like him, although I give him a lot of grief here on the YouTube chat. I have to say, I do.
But again, as you said, we abuse the people we love the most. That's how this banter thing works.
It's actually how this whole thing started with Phil. Anyway, okay. Does anyone else on the panel have any other questions for James? I want to be respectful of his time here. Okay, let's start with Stake Study Stack. Chris, if you've had a chance to take some notes from our YouTube chat, and folks, if you want to start typing the words food bank into the YouTube chat, that's all it takes. Just type the words food bank and you will be entered into a raffle. We're going to give away a great prize. And if just before we get into it, I guess I'll just say, if you're in the given mood, pull out your smartphone right now and just Google food banks near me, and you'll find an organization that can benefit from a few dollars out of your pocket, a few hours of volunteer work out of your week, or a few non-perishable food items from your pantry. It's a great way to make a difference. It can cost very little. It makes a big difference in the world. So I encourage you to do that. And we'll award a prize a little later for folks that just help us out by spreading the word and just typing the word food bank in the YouTube chat. All right, Chris Jones, let's put James in the blender. Oh, sorry, Joseph. Yeah.
I just want to say very quickly too, just to add on that, we're moving into fall and into the holidays, and that's usually when most food banks actually need more food, and it's better to have them get up to speed so that they can make plans for what they can do rather than waiting until exactly on Thanksgiving when that becomes a problem. So October is a great time to give money if you're thinking about it.
Great point, Joe. Thank you. All right, Chris, let's rock and roll, baby.
Well, James, seeing as you're such a special guest for us, I have 2 stake study stacks for you, one fictional and one non-fictional. So the fictional one are Bond villains, and you're going to pick one that you want to stake, one that you want to study with, and then one that you want to just stack at the table. And I thought Casino Royale was too easy, so we're skipping that villain. So you're 3 villains.
I mean, who wouldn't want to study with Lashif, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
don't stake him, by the way. That didn't work out.
right. So your 3 villains are Blofeld, Goldfinger, and Silva from Skyfall.
Okay. I would. Of all of those, I think Goldfinger's a cheat, right? I mean, he cheated at Canasta, so I want to stack Goldfinger.
Nice.
I am going to stake Silva. I think Silva would be a good person to invest in and study with Blofeld. For all of his flaws, he's a very intelligent guy, so I think he'd have a lot to kind of contribute. And he's got a cat, and I love cats.
Love it. You answered it very well. All right, and now I'm going to put you more on the spot with 3 of your fellow commentators. So, Sam Grafton, Griffin Benger, and Maria Ho.
Oh, wow. Stack Griffin, that's an easy one. Because he needs bringing down a peg or 2. Yes, as I think someone pointed out, he is such a goober, and therefore he deserves to be stacked. I will happily stake Maria, not that she needs my money, and I would love to study with Sam Grafton because his understanding of the game is, he is one of the best in the world, quite frankly. He plays an elite level in some of the highest buy-in events in the world. He's also very good at breaking down theoretical concepts into stuff that an idiot like me can understand. So, yeah, and... notice how the easy one was who I was going to stack, by the way. Sorry, Griffin, but you deserve it.
All right, well, I don't see anyone typing the words food bank into the YouTube chat, so I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to do it while we close the action with our speed round here. So, John Oliver, thank you so much for coming on the show. I just want to say this has been a real
welcome.
So this is our speed round, closing the action. Normally there would be a dramatic ticking noise in the background, but our soundboard isn't working. And I even had a special James Bond backtrack lined up for you. And in typical RecPoker podcast fashion, we've had a series of technical issues.
I genuinely appreciate the fact you thought about it. Also, I just think, every time someone brings up Bond, like whether you bring it up or remember the audience brings it, Jesus, do I really go on about Bond that much? You know, yes, you do. It's like, dude, come on.
I think it's more that you're in this stratosphere of the poker world that we just search for anything that we have in common. Feels like something that we need to bring up at the table, and we all have excellent taste in movies and literature.
And it's Bond that brought me into poker, to be brutally honest with you, because it was because of the whole Bond lifestyle thing and the whole idea that Bond frequented casinos that made gambling a kind of glamorous activity. That I had that allure to learn how to play blackjack, how to play baccarat, how to play poker, and that's how I ended up discovering card games, and that's how I ended up doing the job that I do.
But you're still pretty on brand if suddenly you're like looking at luxury watches as the means of you're not really separating yourself into a different lane by doing that.
I'm very basic is what you're saying, Joe. Yes.
You're like an onion and you keep peeling away, but it's always Bond. And
it's all connected. It's pop culture, isn't it? And again, the thing that the EPT affords me is travel, and that's a very Bondian thing as well. So I guess what we're saying is that I clearly have this childhood wish to be James Bond, which has never escaped me. So here I am buying the watches, traveling the world, gambling. Oh my God, I've just psychoanalyzed myself and realized that it doesn't paint a very pretty picture, does it?
Hey, let's face it.
On people, so
Yeah.
I'll send you a bill.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you'll get our invoice in the mail, James. But let's just face it. I mean, Bond is like just one of the coolest like characters out there, and I think for especially folks of our generation, let's say, James.
Yes.
Like someone that I certainly, it's hard to like Indiana Jones, James Bond, Superman. Those were like the big three for me growing up. Do you have any other? Are there other? I guess I've totally taken this interview off the rails at this point. But is there another like character like that sort of is in that echelon for you?
Bond is the main one. I mean, obviously, I grew up in the era of Indiana Jones. Star Wars is the other kind of movie franchise, I guess, that I was a huge fan of. I think Bond consistently, has just always been the one though, because it's gone through peaks and troughs, but it hasn't gone off the edge of a cliff like Star Wars did, like after the prequels and with some of the modern stuff. So, yeah, and I can find something to like in every era of the movies. Even like the really stupid Roger Moore ones still put a smile on my face. They are great. They're a great distraction. They're great entertainment. That's my key affinity from the age of 6 or 7 all the way through to the age of 49.
You do realize we had to stop Chris from using double entendre names of women characters as usually stack. I mean, it's a family show, so
again, just very quickly, because this is not a James Bond themed podcast, and I know that you're desperate to close the action, Jim, but I do find it interesting how actually some of the Roger Moore films from the 70s now ironically hold up better than some of the Sean Connery movies from the 60s because the misogyny in those movies is really hard to cope with now. Like Roger Moore's double entendres and casual sexism is positively socially acceptable compared to some of the stuff that was going on in the Connery movies. Some of them have not dated well at all. No, and it's funny the things that you sort of watch as a child and then grow up. And I know
it's not only that they haven't aged well, but like we have aged well, and we have like different takes on this kind of stuff as adults. Yeah. But
I'm not gonna, how do my parents allow me to watch this and allow my opinions to be formed?
All right. I'm being told that I can't let you go without asking you about the new YouTube channel, which I know you sort of referenced earlier, and something about a Bond live stream. Give our audience some details about that.
So
then
YouTube
we'll let you go,
still,
I promise.
It's. I mean, obviously, I'm thrilled that you guys have monetized the channel and you're able to take super chats. That's amazing. Great work. My aspiration is nothing like that. It's a hobby. YouTube is very much a hobby for me. And if I was going to take YouTube seriously, I'd be doing poker content, right? Because I'm known as a poker guy. The reason I started a YouTube channel at the start of this year is to give me the option to talk about all the stuff that I can't talk about in the poker space, which is watches, James Bond, movies, travel, etc. So again, I don't keep up with making videos frequently enough. I commit that cardinal sin of YouTube, which I don't pick a lane. I'm trying to cover a number of subjects, and everyone will tell you that you can't be a successful YouTuber. I don't care. I just want to have an outlet that gives me the chance to make fun videos, dick around in Adobe Premiere, have fun filming myself, and make stuff that, hopefully some people find entertaining. So yeah, there are videos about Bond, videos about watches. I'm probably gonna do a video this week, actually. I went to see a movie last week here in Hollywood called The Substance, and I'm probably gonna do a movie review about that. So yeah, it's eclectic. If you like eclectic content and you're not sick of my voice, and a lot of people who are poker fans are very sick of my voice, there might be something there that you can discover and enjoy.
Doing the secret messages. I love that. I love those little moments when I have to down in order to see them. So that was great.
Yes, you have to freeze frame to get those. Yeah.
And of course, I'll make sure that if you're listening along and enjoying this episode, you'll find links in the show notes, not only to James's YouTube, but also to the PokerStars YouTube, and also you can follow James on Twitter as well and get more James Hartigan into your life. All right,
bless you guys for still clinging on to this naive dream that Twitter is still alive. Twitter is dead. What we have now is something called X, which is a pale imitation of what Twitter used to be.
Yeah, I'm still enjoying
we all hate ourselves for being on there, but there's nothing we can do.
No, it's true. It's true. All right, so we're going to close the action here with our speed round. I'll remind you, James, you can at any point pass. I don't want you to feel too uncomfortable. But if you're only like a little uncomfortable, that's actually pretty optimal for us. So I'll trust you to calibrate that effectively.
Okay, fine.
And normally there would be some dramatic ticking noise in the background. We're not getting that. We're not getting the James Bond background. I'm so pissed off about that. Whatever. All right. Closing the action with our fantastic guest, James Hartigan. James, thank you so much. All right, we'll start with an easy one. What is your favorite poker hand? Tick, 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 tick.
Jack 9 of diamonds.
Is poker a gamble or a skill game? Tick, 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 tick.
Both.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
What's your biggest poker pet peeve?
The proliferation of misogyny and sexism in the game.
Great answer. Is Ace King a drawing hand?
Yes.
Who's the worst James Bond actor of the feature films?
George Lazenby.
What's one thing that you don't have that if you did, you would be truly happy?
Wow.
We got a wow, folks.
I'm going to pass on
Professional journalist. We got him.
I'm going to pass on that. I cannot think of anything, which makes me seem less like a douche, right? He's like, oh, he's got everything in life. He's super happy. There must be something, but I can't think of anything, so I'm going to have to pass.
No, James, I think a lot of people totally didn't think you were a douche there at all. What is a hot dog? Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
What's one thing you're afraid of?
Reptiles.
Should vacations be lazy or busy?
Both.
What about a taco? Is a taco a sandwich?
No.
What's your favorite brick and mortar poker venue? Tick, 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 tick. See, it's better with the ticking in the background. It is.
Hippodrome, London.
Nice. Name one player that you respect and why. Doesn't have to be the one you respect the most, but just one player you respect and why.
I'm going to say Sam Grafton again because he's a great player, great commentator, and a great ambassador for the game.
There's a yellow light coming up. Slow down or speed up?
Speed up.
Are you pro chop or no chop?
Pro chop.
What about an open face sandwich? Is an open face sandwich a sandwich?
What's an open face sandwich?
Wow, you got a lot of learning to do, my friend. Get this guy out into the world.
Is that just food on a single slice of bread? That's not a sandwich. No, that's not a sandwich. That's just food on a slice of bread.
All right, I like it. Doesn't have to be your favorite. Name one excellent musical artist.
The Smiths.
When's the last time you cried?
I watched a movie recently that made me cry. It was on the plane on the way here to Los Angeles.
Who's your poker nemesis?
My poker nemesis. Do I have a nemesis? I don't really have one.
Good for you. Living clean.
I'll pass on that.
What's one thing you can't live without?
Water.
Excellent answer. All right, I think. Oh, and then who is the best James Bond actor of the features?
Timothy Dalton. Closely followed by Daniel Craig.
All right. This man knows his. He's got strong opinions, and not just about poker.
I thought those were going to be difficult. A lot of those were snap calls.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to take it easy. It's your first time on the show. You know, I wasn't sure if you're familiar with the format.
That's fine. But I was very stressed going into that.
I will ask one more question for you, Ben. You've been in the poker industry for a long time. You talked about sort of the stain of misogyny and of making the poker world an unpleasant place. What's one thing that we can proactively do differently to make the poker world a more welcoming, friendly place?
Speak up. And I firmly believe that the vast majority of men playing the game are not douches, but there are still a lot playing the game who make the environment very uncomfortable for women. There have been some amazing initiatives to bring women into poker that have been run over the years. And there is one very high profile pro who says, well, none of them have worked, right? Because look at the number of women playing poker. It hasn't changed in all those years. No, they have worked. The problem is when the women then enter Genpot, when they start playing open events, when they encounter the reality of the game rather than the special events that have brought them into the game, they see a lot of the players who, understandably, they don't want to be playing with. So in the same way that we say welcome all new players into the game, don't be a dick towards someone who's new at the table, that especially extends towards saying anything. It's so much worse, by the way. Don't think for 1 second it's equal. If there's a newbie at the table who's a guy, yes, he might get a rough time, but it's nothing like what a woman at the table will get from some people. I was very disappointed. I'll just give you a very quick anecdote from the World Series of Poker this summer. I was playing at a table. There was a guy there who had 3 beers on the go at once. I'm not saying that was related to his attitude, but it probably did inform how he was behaving. He was being very inappropriate with the dealer, to the point where he was talking about spending money on her to spend time in her company. She was clearly uncomfortable, but unfortunately maybe didn't feel that she was in a position to call the floor. I felt it was important to say something and say, can you stop, dude? You're clearly making her uncomfortable and this conversation is not appropriate. I was very disappointed that the other 8 players at the table did not have my back. So when this guy was kind of like, I can say whatever the F I want, they were kind of like, everyone was mute. And I just think we have a duty to call out that kind of behavior, and everyone else has a duty to kind of understand that there is no place for that in society. It has unfortunately been normalized by some public figures. It has been normalized by some social media platforms that we may have been talking about some time ago, which hide behind the argument of freedom of speech. It's unacceptable, has no place in society, and poker in many ways is a reflection of wider society, and I'd like to make it better.
Great answer.
Just to follow up on what you said, James, it's really, people do stay quiet out of fear, and they don't recognize.
I agree.
When you have a group of people, if you have 1 or 2 or 3 people starting to speak up, bullies go away. They'll stop.
100%.
They're looking for an easy target, and they want to make sure everybody stays quiet by some aspect of threat. And it's really, I know that. So one of the things I do for a living is threat assessment within the hospital, and there's a lot of steps before somebody's going to go get a gun and do something, or the things that people worry about in these situations. Speaking up, providing support is contagious. If it's contagious at the table, you'll have the whole table with you, because 90% chance that everybody else is pissed off at the same person.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. Yep. I agree.
Right on. Well, I'm just doing some quick math here. I get you at 962 points for the speed round. That's very impressive, James. That's an excellent score. You should be chuffed about that.
I'll take it.
Right?
I'll take it. I have no idea what that score translates into. Do points mean prizes?
Oh God, no. Oh, we're a largely volunteer-based organization. You've
that
seen
message,
our
Jim.
operational budget when it comes to All right. Well, James, is there anything that our audience can do to say thanks for coming on the show? Like I said, they can find more James Hartigan on YouTube and on Twitter. But what can they do to make your life better?
They're going to be forced to listen to me, because there's more content just a short while away. I mean, I would say that for poker, the PokerStars YouTube channel has everything. You talked about the big game on tour. All 10 episodes from the last season are available. There's a new season of the Mystery Cash Challenge, with episodes dropping twice weekly at the moment. We're going to be in Cyprus with the EPT in a couple of weeks. And I think the big one, for a lot of the people who are part of your community and are watching this now, will be the NAPT from Las Vegas, where we're going to be shooting a new season of the big game. The stuff I can tell you is there are going to be 3 tables this time around. I think a couple of names already out there. Rob Gronkowski and Nick Wright are both going to be playing on the big game this time around. That's right, Gronk is playing the big game. And we're also going to be streaming a couple of days of the NAPT as well. So that's the big one. And hopefully some people can make it there, because yes, this time around it's a 5K main event and there's a 25K super high roller, but I'm really pleased that they've kept like the $550 cup, for example, on the closing weekend. There's a $550 mystery bounty the opening weekend. They've understood that the bookends of the festival, the weekends, still have plenty of low buy-in tournaments, which means that it's perfect for any poker fans who might be in Vegas that weekend who want to get that kind of NAPT experience.
That's amazing. And I don't know about staking or studying, but you could stack Rob Gronkowski down there as part of this feature. So get down there, try your luck at the NAPT. And James, is it just tea, or do you occasionally enjoy a beer or something, or can someone buy you a beer? What's like the nice way to...
Absolutely. I will drink many beverages. I do like a nice gin and tonic, but beer is perfectly acceptable. More of a coffee drinker than a tea drinker, bucking the national trend.
Yes, I knew there was one thing I liked about you. I hope we get a chance to meet up again.
Shaken, not
stirred. Yeah, the shaken, not stirred. That would be a good one, too. Yeah, I like that. James,
for years, by the way, I could not drink vodka martinis because they just tasted like lighter fluid. And then finally, I found a bar in Richmond that does the original Vesper martini. It's like, oh, this is what it's meant to taste like. Sadly, most barmen just give you something that I think is kind of akin to gasoline.
Yeah. Well, I got a chance to meet you in Dublin for the Irish Poker Open.
That was awesome.
A gentleman and a pleasure to hang around with. I hope we get to cross paths again. Thank you so much for your time, James.
Not at all. It was really nice. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure to be here, guys. Thank you.
All right, James Hartigan, everybody. I hope some folks get a chance to go visit him down in Vegas and toss their hat into the ring in the big game on tour as part of the North American Poker Tour. Now, let us talk about some recent home game winners. We got to give away a prize. Chris, you might as well get the DiceOcam started, and John Somsky, take us into home game land, and we'll wrap this puppy up.
Well, on September 16th, Johnny Quattro got his or her very first nightly victory. Stewie 13, Stuart Carriage, got his 5th nightly victory for the year and bringing him to 47 all-time lifetime. So
he's knocking on the door, on the door, Stewie. Good for you.
And Panthers 7,500, who is listed as private, but I have permission from his father to out him as Joe Coolis Jr.
Wow.
I don't think Joe is his actually name, but
it's Aiden Coolis. Yeah,
Aiden Coolis.
I'm very proud.
Congratulations.
He has a long way to catch up to me and wins. So
that's right. Congratulations, Aiden. That's awesome. Good for you.
And Bitcoin 70K got their very first nightly victory. Isma got their 5th nightly victory from the year, bringing them to 49 lifetime.
Whoa!
Just one away.
Holy cow. Let's just take a second for that, because Isma, if people don't know, is the first name that would trip John up. Like, John really struggled with Isma for a long time. And Spike, who I'm just going to dox them, I don't know if Spike's the real name or not, but that's what they used to be called back when they were public, and now they're private, and I shouldn't be sharing their name. But hey, Spike, I have such a place in my heart for you because of this role that you played in making John uncomfortable on camera, live on TV year after year. And I'm so proud that you have stuck out with us for all these years, and now you're at 49. Get that 50. We're gonna have Isma on the show. We should have every member who makes it to 50 home games on the show. If you get a lifetime achievement award, that should be a ticket. I shouldn't brainstorm these things live as they occur to me, but that's a pretty cool idea. Let's see, Spike, right in if you're interested.
Your just random thoughts right there. So I will die on that Spike as well. Next, we have Jay Sedum. Jeff S. got their 10th nightly victory of the year. And then Jay Sedum, Jeff S.
Oh my God.
Won the mixed event for the second time this year, the daily mixed practice event. Genji 88, Jennifer Galloway got her first international victory for the year. Micmac 1024, Virginia Neely got her first international victory for the year. PetVet 33, Kim Kilroy won the LPP event. So she can contact info at rec.poker for her free month at Learn Pro Poker. And this is her 62nd lifetime victory for rec.poker. And then this last week, we also had the Heads Up event. And Binkley, Eric Jin won the Heads Up event. So he will definitely have a spot in our Marek Madness coming up next year in 2025.
Wow, no surprise there, Eric Jin. Binkley, as you know, I'm Con Binkley in some of the games around here. Just a natural born killer on the felt. So congratulations, Eric. And
although one of his matches was against me, so he kind of had a lighter load than most.
We count those as a bye, John. Typically, it's just like circle. It's like it used to be playing against the Cleveland Browns every week. Yeah, you just can't.
John, only the best people beat you. It's very difficult to beat.
Oh, believe me, idiots have beat me all the time.
And John, who was the Sunday night winner? Sorry, that has won a free month at Learn Pro Poker.
Kim Kilroy.
Oh, Kim Kilroy. All right. Well, she's no stranger.
We had a one hand playoff. Heads up, her and I.
I see. Well, Kim, I know you're already a member at Learn Pro Poker, but every week the winner of our free-to-play play money tournament on Sunday nights wins a free month at Learn Pro Poker. And if Ryan the Plant is playing in the tournament that night and you take him out, you also win a free month at Learn Pro Poker. So just another reason to get involved in the home games here. The games are free, but the prizes are real. So find out more at rec.poker/home games. Is there anything else that we should get into before we give away a fantastic prize?
That's one thing.
Rob?
I was thinking the other day about short stack tournament play. And when we get short stacked, we're very reluctant to use tools like 3-betting, right? We tend to go to a call or a fold type strategy. But there's a Learning with Partners video by Ben Hales of Red Chip Poker. And if you remember Ben Hales, he was the post-flop poker podcast guy. He discusses the concept of 3-betting from a short stack. So I think anybody that has some questions about that or concerns about that, definitely check out the video. And if you want more of that kind of stuff, you can go to rec.poker resources learning partners, and you can get online with Red Chip Poker and get a free week by signing up through our website. So check it out.
Yeah, check it out. We've got a ton of fantastic discount links and other ways to get free resources from some of the major leading trading sites in the world. If you go to rec.poker/resources, you can poke around on the page there a little bit and work with some of our learning partners. It's one of the things that I love most about what we do at Rec Poker is just taking this fantastic information from the most sophisticated poker minds in the world and distilling it down into actionable steps that we can all take as recreational players to bring our game to the next level. So yeah, great point, Rob. I hope some folks check that out. All right, Chris Jones, let's give away a prize and wrap this puppy up.
Okay, I got so last week the bamboozle machine was broken and we gave a prize to Phil. So this week it's happen. Mike Day is 1, Phil is 2, Joe Rafters 3, and Shrimp Bucks is 4. So we're trying to avoid rolling a 2.
That's right. And if we roll a 5, do we have a 4-sided?
I got a 4-sider. Should I roll?
No, that's fine. If we roll whatever, I don't want Phil to win. So if you roll whatever would get Phil the win, I'll donate $20 to a local food.
Sounds good. If we roll a 2, then I guess we kind of win-lose.
I just want every roll to win, like in my heart, a little.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
It's it's a 2.
Oh, come on, man. Oh, I didn't see it in the Dicecam, by the way. So as for all I know, you're bamboozling me here. But I take you at your word. So congratulations, Phil. Because and I'll just, in case we have some new listeners here in the YouTube, if you are not a Rec Poker Premium member, then you would have won a whole free month of premium membership here at Rec Poker. But because you are already a premium member, Phil Razor, and thank you for your support, by the way, you have won access to one of our learning partners. And so whether it's Solve for Why, Learn Pro Poker, Jacka Coaching, Red Chip, pokercoaching.com. Why do I say these on live when I don't have to listen in front of me because I know I'm forgetting one? But if you send an email to info@rec.poker, we'll set you up with some free access to one of our fantastic learning partners. So thanks for joining the show. And thanks for typing Food Bank into the YouTube chat. And I'll just ask our listeners again, just consider helping out at your local food bank. It's a great way to make the world a better place. And everybody needs a little help every once in a while. So I hope you do. All right. Well, my thanks to James Hartigan. What a fantastic guest he was. Can't believe it took us 625 episodes to get him on. Let's try and have him back before episode 1250. Yeah, that's math on life. I also want to thank Joe Coolis, John Somsky, Rob Washam, and Chris Jones for all their help in the booth and their support as RecPoker Crew members. My mom, Martha Reed, thanks for tuning in like you do every week. Everyone in the YouTube chat, and all you listeners at home. Oh, God, and Running Aces. God, thanks for your support, Running Aces. You guys are the best. All right, talk to the rest of you later. Have a great week. Bye.